the day, I'm doing what feels right for me and chasing down my dream.
All right, it's about 3:15 a.m. Early shift today. Flying Detroit, Toronto, Winnipeg. And in typical fashion, I got a lot of stuff today. Flying out for 6. Honestly, I should be back home before noon, which I'm really looking forward to. Give my mom a nice big hug and then getting some shows done with Dave. So I'll be honest too, I know that my playing days are quickly approaching their end. Stuff like this, traveling around the world, playing hockey, it's probably the greatest job I've ever had in my lifetime. Yeah, these are the moments you live for.
It's this video already.
Alright, all checked in. I actually like the Detroit airport quite a bit. It's a nice airport. Flying an hour and a half layover in Toronto, hit the lounge, quick shower, quick brekkie, quick coffee, maybe skip the breakfast. So here's a tip of the pros. If you're ever traveling and thirsty, don't spend $9-10 on a bottle of water. Just go to Starbucks, get an ice water cup. On the house, it's free, and especially after I feel like I carry like a small Nigerian village and all my gear to the airport. And the terminal drop off. It's much needed. Have a good night. Morning. All right. I think the Winnipeg airport might be one of my favorites. The airport's always had this like polar bear here. There's a picture of me when I was like 15. They've always had this bear here. Kind of nostalgic. Find my gear down there. Stuff, and mom is waiting outside for her favorite child.
And now word from today's video sponsor, HelloFresh. Start the year off right with HelloFresh, your go-to for cozy, comfortable, high-quality meals delivered right to your doorstep. HelloFresh is budget-friendly, use only seasonal ingredients delivered right to your door so you can enjoy meals without the hassle and sky-high costs of eating out. Everything you need gets delivered right to your home, making it so easy to kick off the new year on the right foot. Whether we're talking your favorite 20-minute meals or hearty winter favorites, HelloFresh makes cooking at home simple and satisfying with super easy to follow recipes that are packed with flavor. I'm probably the most patriotic Canadian you'll ever meet. So when I found out that HelloFresh was sourcing their produce from local Canadian farmers, I had to get on board. I mean, we're talking going farm to table in less than a week. And considering that HelloFresh only sends you exactly what you need, there's no food waste. They cut food waste actually by 36%. I love HelloFresh because it buys me my time back. And whether that's spending time training, spending time with my family and the people that I love most, or reinvesting it back into producing this show, HelloFresh helps me and they can help you too, especially when we're talking about meals that are packed with nutrition that do not sacrifice an ounce of flavor. If you're still on the fence, let me make it even easier for you than ever before. I'm gonna get you up to 20 meals for free and a lifetime of sides with free shipping when you go to the link in the video description at hellofresh.ca. Use my name, the code TRAV, T-R-A-V, my name. You get up to 20 free meals, a lifetime of sides, and free shipping. Note that this offer is only for new customers or customers that have been unsubscribed for 270 days or more. What are you waiting for? Get started with HelloFresh today. And if I'm not getting paid and sticks and accommodations and whatnot, then I'm going to have more say in what I want to do than the team does.
Sure.
And so I spent the last 2 months in Fort Wayne. You know, we had the dumpster fire in Spain, which we've documented. Great experience, but still a dumpster fire, with the goal of my agent to get me a deal somewhere in the Fed, where Fort Wayne is pretty much central to everything. It's a couple hours away from Vegas, from Danville, Illinois, from Michigan, from the Port Huron, the Motor Cities, from the East Coast, a couple hours, and then obviously a little bit more of a trek down south. But it's central, and it's a great spot. More of a senior hockey than anything. Not a lot of defense, a lot of offense. And in that time period over the last 2 months, I put the best stats in the league, which is something we haven't been able to say on this podcast so far. But after all the games, and to be quite frank, a severe lack of defense, I put up the best save percentage in the league, with the exception of, I think, some guy who played like 2 games. But as far as like full-time guys, best stats, and no offers came in. I mean, there wasn't a lot of goalie movement to begin with, but I just said, listen, like I'm going to go home for Christmas. We'll evaluate things at this point. But if there's no deal by the new year, like I'm just going to stick home and we'll see if something else comes up. But I got other business endeavors that I want to focus on. But if I'm not playing pro, like I can't fake it. Like I can't sit here and say, I'm working towards a goal. I want to be pro. Like I got to be realistic about it. And if a deal hasn't come in at this point in time, then we got to start looking elsewhere.
Well, I mean, look, we've taken our turns at trying to guess what the next step is for Casper or for Casimir, and for a guy who we were very critical on, as far as like, hey, take a job when you can get it, and he said, no, I'm not playing anything below the American League. Just this past week, he signed in the East Coast League with the Admirals, so he's in a situation where he finally realized, I got to get a job or I'm not going to have one at all. Mm-hmm. And I think in your situation, it's kind of similar. Like if you're not playing, if you sit on the sidelines and just say, I'm going to wait until the offer that I want comes around, you might be waiting a while.
Well, the difference between me and him, though, was I'm assuming he was looking for, I want the right pay, the right opportunity, the right amount of games. And of course, I'm not going to go sign with a pro team to be the fourth goalie or a third goalie. I'm going to play some degree of games. I'm going to be the starter. But be the backup, play a couple games. Like I want to be an actual pro, not a practice goalie. And I mean, the money's dog shit, no matter where you go.
Right.
All right. Like this has been the primary income the past 2 years compared to playing in the Fed, so the money's really not that big of an issue.
Well, and I think that's a question that I think I'm stealing from a lot of people's brains right now, which is, are you playing pro hockey to create content, or were you playing pro hockey because you wanted to play pro hockey?
I function a lot off achievement-based stuff, right? So I feel very useless very quickly if I'm not accomplishing things or I'm not doing stuff. And it can be small stuff, right? Like if I want to go to the gym early in the morning, I want to go do a cold plunge out in freezing cold creek, or I want to go play a professional hockey game this week and be successful. Small little things or big things. But I feel useless very quickly. And if I'm working towards a goal of playing pro and I'm sitting here spinning my tires in the mud and I'm performing well, I'm putting up the best stats in the league, I'm keeping the team in games, I'm winning the team games, when I'm not in net, we're not winning games, and no teams are calling, well, I think the writing's on the wall to some degree. I think it's a pretty fair assessment.
Well, if it's not your play, then what is it? And we've talked about this before. Is there a possibility that some teams just don't like the idea of having the curtain pulled back by their goaltender who may or may not be in the game, and they got to be second-guessing everything that they're now doing because there's live cameras in the locker room or edited cameras in the locker room and on the ice and whatnot? Does that maybe take their eye off the off what they're there for?
But so you're forgetting one piece, one critical component that I've communicated to every team that I've played for. We're going to run into issues at some point just based on the fact that I'm filming things and putting on the internet when the other guys are not. We're going to have issues at some point. But what we can do is be professionals. I'm a professional. You're a professional. Let's sit down. Let's talk about it like men. There's nothing we can't talk about in 5 to 10 minutes. This is actually one of the conversations I had in Mississippi when they traded me. Call, hey, is this going to be an issue? Listen, I'll be straight with you. There's going to be something that happens at some point, but let's communicate. Let's talk about it. We'll never have an issue that lasts more than 5 minutes. And I'm pretty reasonable. So if you have an issue, just let me know. We'll solve it.
Well, we've talked about it before. A lot of teams are willing to overlook problem childs if their talent is there. And whether or not one balances out the other, if they're somewhere around even, then they're going to default to not worth it.
Well, the problem is, and we talked about this with Matt Murray, when you've had a certain amount of time off, right? Like whether it's hip surgery or just like not playing a whole lot of games, it's a luxury to get back into the rhythm, but you need to get back into the rhythm. So in Fort Wayne, when I'm playing every single week and I'm playing games, you see like when I'm consistent and I'm feeling it and I'm not worried about, well, I might start this week and then not skate for 2 weeks or not play for 2 weeks. It's a lot harder to get into that than when I'm playing every single week. And the results show. Now, again, it is a luxury to do that because starting goalies get to do that. They play 2-3 times a week. But you need to get into a rhythm. And when people see what I was doing in Motor City, Watertown, or Mississippi, I, honest to God, despite the stats, in Mississippi, I felt the best I've felt in my career. That is when I felt I was going to put up the best numbers, the best stats given a chance. Now, granted, they hung me out to dry in Whitville.
Sure.
Like, we had a top goalie going after me, and you have the exact same goals, worse stats than me, and then they said, whatever, just put Ridgen back in. We suck tonight, right? That's just the way the cookie crumbles, and I have to wear that. That's part of the job description. That's just the way the business.
And again, like you said, that's a problem. It's a problem for you. It's not a problem for them. Because, I mean, guys, and no offense, but outside of the camera work, guys like you are a dime a dozen. They can find another Travis Ridgen, a guy who's 6'5" and can stop the odd puck, right?
Yep.
So if they had their option, it's the ones, and they're very few and far between, but I think they're going to start becoming more popular, especially in some of the lower rungs of professional hockey, is realizing that it can be used as a promotional tool as long as you go in with that attitude of, hey, you get final say on what gets cut and what goes to air, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, and I think that when we look back on my playing career, I will be one of the trendsetters that set that standard of a player coming in to do videos, because now a lot of guys are doing that.
Pick the cliche you want, but it's not necessarily over as far as your playing career. It's just going through a different
Yeah, and I love
avenue.
goaltending. I'm still going to continue to play because goaltending is fun. And the interesting thing, too, is these cash prize native tournaments. And by the way, if you run a reserve team or like any cash prize native tournaments, you want a goalie, give me a jingle because I love this stuff. And the money that we win, well, I mean, depending on the tournament cash prize.
And you check that box too, by the way.
Bingo.
Yeah.
And because I am native.
Yeah.
But the money you win in those tournaments is probably going to be more than I made in my entire pro career, which is kind of funny because it's not pro hockey, but these dudes want to win some cash, and so do I.